Today, we're bringing you another special Friday presentation of Empowered Podcasting Live, the weekly live stream I host with Jason Cercone and Rich Perry. In this episode, we're joined by Jessica Schiller, founder of Mozen Wellness, host of the Alive podcast, and one of our featured workshop speakers at the Empowered Podcasting Conference next month. Jessica believes the energy behind your voice can shape how people experience your podcast long before they fully process your words. We talk about what listeners can sense through a microphone or a camera, why a creator can follow every recommended strategy and still sound guarded or disconnected, and how comparison, anxiety, and constant exposure to other creators can affect the way you show up. We also explore the relationship between mindset, authenticity, AI, nervous system regulation, and the deeper connection podcasters build with their audiences. And now, here's our conversation with Jessica Schiller on Empowered Podcasting Live.
Hey, welcome everybody to Empowered Podcasting Live, your weekly show brought to you by the Empowered Podcasting team, discussing all things empowered podcasting, the conference, speakers, sponsors, everything you need to know. And we are joined today by one of our featured workshop speakers, Jessica Schiller. What's going on, Jessica?
Not much.
And creative partner as well.
Creative partner.
CP, yes.
And before we get into our featured guest, Marc, what's going on, my man? How does it feel to give up the reins, or as I say, the helm, captain of the ship today, Rich Perry, in full effect? How does it feel, my man?
Honestly, it feels relieving. Doing the morning show every day and then this once a week. And now on top of that, I got a shot yesterday that's kind of making me feel a little loopy today. So it's a welcomed thing. Have at it, my friend.
And folks, if you see his face drooping a little bit, feel free to bust his chops in the chat. Have at it.
Rich, I should tell you that our chat here is not working. So if people are chatting to us on, say, YouTube or LinkedIn, we're not seeing it for some reason.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So folks, we are not ignoring you, but feel free to self-moderate and hype it up as best you possibly can. We'll be joined by Jason Cercone in just a little bit. He's putting out some fires, but that's okay. Marc and I are here. And as I mentioned before, we are joined by the very lovely Jessica Schiller, one of our featured workshop speakers and creator partner extraordinaire. Jessica, full welcome. How are you doing today, my friend?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the grand welcome. And don't worry, Marc, I'm always a little bit loopy, so it's totally in my energy.
Yeah, well, I've gotten to know you over the past few months because we officially met at PodFest. I guess we met leading up to PodFest.
Before PC last year.
Yes, but PodFest really kind of solidified it, I feel like, for us. That's where we really got to know each other and hang out a bunch. And
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we both can be a little loopy once in a while. I think that goes with the whole, when we're energetically sensitive, that comes with the territory sometimes.
It's par for the course.
Yes.
All right. So Jessica, let's kind of dive in real quick. But for the folks that don't know you, I know that you recently launched another brand, but for the purpose of our initial conversation, because this is the brand you'll be representing at Empowered Podcasting, tell us a little bit about Mozen Wellness and what it is that you do as a coach, as a facilitator.
Yeah, well, thank you. So Mozen Wellness has been my brand for over a decade now. Feels wild to say, but I've been doing this for 11 plus years after leaving my corporate past. I was in corporate finance for about 15 years before that. I know I look young, but not as young as I look. I had a corporate life in corporate finance. Wasn't my jam. That's sort of the tagline of, my initial podcast. I stepped away from a six-figure income to start my own venture. And that was the irony, is that in my corporate past, I was a venture capital finance manager, right? Basically funding other people's investments. And I used to sit at my desk every single day and I would dream. And I had a notebook, whenever I had anxiety or was just literally felt dead inside, which is why my podcast is called Alive, because I know what it feels like to be in opposition. And I dreamed of what that would look like. And so Mozen Wellness was born initially from that place. The brand has evolved 3 times since its inception back in 2015. It started simply as health and wellness, weight loss coaching, was getting, shedding weight for my wedding in 2016. Then it evolved into lots of women as I was showing up online in my authenticity and my energy, asking, well, how did you start this business? I sort of say I was one of the initial entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs. Like I was using Zoom before it was really a thing. And women were coming to me like, how did you start your business, your brand? And the number one compliment that I always got, which then I didn't appreciate, now I do, is I love your energy. And people
You
would
didn't
just
like
come
that
to
at
me.
first.
No, I
Why
didn't.
not?
No,
Why not?
because I was like, I'm so much more than that. Even though having beautiful energy is a beautiful thing, at the time, I was still 1 foot, maybe 2 feet still in my corporate past. Like, that's not good enough, right? Like, you need to have expertise and strategy, right? And all the things that the world says that you need to be in that realm. Like, I worked in corporate finance. I wasn't a wellness guru other than my own personal story. And I was always like, is that enough? But then I had women coming to me 2, 3, 4 years into my business saying, well, how are you showing up online the way you're showing up? Because it's very magnetizing and it's drawing in customers organically. And then in 2020, the pandemic hit, right? Which we've all been and lived through. And my podcast was born. That's also the year that I found PodFest, sort of born out of my own darkness of like, I wanted to write a book. I'm a writer by heart. Actually, most people don't know that about me, even though I get that compliment a lot online as far as my writing style and how I show up online in my writing. But I never thought of myself as a speaker. And I'll never forget, and I say this all the time at PodFest, what Chris Cremitzo said to me in one of the very first calls. He was like, oh, you're a well-renowned speaker. Like he literally planted those words in me. And I never forgot that because I never thought of myself as a speaker, always a writer. So 2020, my podcast was born. And that's when Alive with Jessica Silverman really was born. And then it evolved more into mental wellness. Again, born out of my own journey into like, hey, beyond the weight loss and the health, right? There's a psychology behind it. And that's what I always spoke to. I'm going to tap into that psychology. Like what's keeping people stuck from whatever it is they want to, right, succeed in life, whether that's weight loss, whether that's better relationships, whether that's living in their purpose, whether that's connecting deeper, right, to spirit, to God, whatever everybody has, right, to be a better mom, to be a better partner. And that really, to me, is the secret sauce. As the great Einstein says, energy is everything. And so I kind of morphed both worlds of my spiritual, my energetic, of course, knowing the fundamentals of holistic living into Mozen Wellness, right? The integrated brand, which is where mental wellness, right? Trauma is at the core of literally all of our decisions and how we move in the world. And then spiritually, it's energy. So bridging that gap between science and spirituality, which is a lot of what I'm going to bring to EPC as well in my talk.
I would love to jump in here and just to get real quickly here with you for a second, because look, the stuff that you're talking about, energetically speaking, and finding your authenticity and using that authenticity to share your message, all of that stuff, I could talk about that with you all day long. I love talking about that stuff. And it's an area that I often, as a podcast, will call myself teacher for now. As a podcast teacher, somebody who helps people with podcasting, I sometimes feel like if I lead with that stuff, people are just going to kind of go look elsewhere, because I feel like a lot of content creators, I feel like they're looking for the magic pill, the magic answer, and they always think it's around tools or techniques. And I think that magic pill really is what you're talking about here. I was
just going to say, this is the magic pill, and that's actually what I'm going to introduce at your conference, that it is not just woo. There is actual tactile, tangible tools that you can use to tap in. I do this work every single day. I spent an hour and a half or so this morning before hopping on this live. So the frequency, right, and the vibration, a podcast is a frequency, right? FM, right? AM, FM. And we don't often think about how we're coming across through our microphone, through our voice, through our tone, through our cadence, right? Really through our energy. we don't think about the energetics behind the message and really how we show up in the world and the impact that we can make through that, through our voice.
Very cool. I love that. And I'm
Yeah.
excited that you're bringing that to EPC. We had a little bit of that from our old friend Jana Swan last year, and I love that we're going to have some fresh blood taking it from a new angle this year. That's very cool. By the way, welcome to Jason Sircone, who's joined us as well. Hey, Jason.
Yeah, what's up, bud?
Go ahead, Rich.
Apologies for my tardiness.
That's okay, Jason.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You'll be docked pay, but nah.
That sounds about right. Rich is such a hard ass to work for.
All right, Jessica, you say that energy rather than strategy defines impact. How does a listener experience that energy when they can only hear someone's voice or watch them through a screen? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So really, when I listen, and I'm just going to use my own personal experience, and then everyone listening can kind of connect in their own way. When I press play, because I was a listener before I was a podcaster, when I press play, that first, and I don't know if there are studies done on this, but I would beg to differ that the first minute or so really determines whether somebody continues to listen or not. Not the tag. I mean, the tagline is what brings them in, but your energy is what keeps people in the door for that length of the episode. And your energy is what keeps people continuing to listen to your podcast. That's why, yes, good content, right? A tagline, algorithm, all of that can bring people in. It's sort of like on Instagram, the difference between stories and posts, right? Posts bring in fresh blood, fresh listeners, because they, right, based on the algorithm. But then your stories are where you can continue to share your lifestyle, your brand, right? And podcasting, we want people for the long haul, right? It's not a quick hit. As same within our business, right? So I attract customers through my podcast as well, because they understand that being and listening to my podcast, we're going to go on a journey. Like I can talk on a solo episode for maybe an hour plus, hour and a half at times, right? But they know that we're in it for the long haul. Like I take people on a journey, not a quick hit, not a quick pill, right? But that's not to say that there aren't tools that can bring people in, right? There is a physicality in a tangible way to project energy as well. But to me, it's not only about the voice, like it's a felt sense. In the spiritual world, they call it the 5 clairs. And it's a term called felt sense clairsentience, right? And that is what, to me, keeps people listening. The energy, not the strategy, right? Because even, for instance, on your conference, or any like online, like I listened to PodFest AI conference, I believe it was like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And I signed up for sessions based on the title, but within the first like 2 or 3 minutes, I could tell if I was going to be engaged for the remainder of the session, right? If I'm going to subscribe mentally. And I feel like that's what happens a lot in podcasting, right? And so if you don't feel like you're getting not only the number of people, right? So my MO, and I think that's how you and I, right, connected, Marc, is it's not about the number, and you said this at your session, not about the number of people in your community. It's the connectedness, right? It's how people feel when they're in your community. It's about having that intimate, tight-knit place where people feel seen, heard, that they belong, really above all else. And so if you can do that in every single episode and how you show up, right? The messaging is kind of the secret sauce that brings people in the door, kind of like Trader Joe's with their fun new products, right? They bring you in the door, or their lead-ons, right? They sell their eggs for super dirt cheap, but that's I think they call them like loss leaders or something in the grocery business. My husband works in groceries, so that's why I'm using a grocery analogy. My ex-husband, I should say.
Yeah.
That brings you in the door, but what keeps you in, right, is the energy of Trader Joe's. It's the fun, innovative products. It's the energy of the people and the fun, outfits they wear. It's the customer service, right? When you come to the register. Podcasting, it's everything is energy. And I'm using a really simple example to explain something that is actually much more nuanced and complex, but it also doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So podcasters spend a lot of time, like I was saying, thinking about the things like the formats, the hooks, the equipment, the promotional aspects, growing their shows, right? What happens when someone follows all of those recommended strategies, but their voice still feels guarded or forced or disconnected?
I think people can feel that, right? Like that's my point is that
But yeah, go ahead.
energy versus strategy, right? Like, for instance, if someone doesn't come prepared, and this has happened to me many times in speaking on stages where I felt anxious, right? People can feel that in the audience, right? Someone can feel if your energy's scattered in a million places because of anxiety, and it might not be your true self, right? All these energies, and in the trauma world, we call it parts work, right? We all have different parts within us. But if we truly want to show up in a way that's not only our authentic self, I think authentic can be very buzzy, but I think ourselves that are true at our core, right? Of how we want to come across in our, and I'm trying not to get too woo-woo. You guys
That's
right
okay.
away,
You can
because
get woo-woo. This is your wheelhouse.
I tend to live in alternate universes and realms. But for instance, with my clients, I use a lot of tools, right? Like astrology, like human design. We call it your divine design, right? And that's how in human design, for instance, there's 2 blueprints. There's one, the day you were born. So it's a snapshot. And then one, 3 months you were born, when you were conceived in the womb. What was happening in the universe, in the cosmos? Where were the planets? Where were the transits? And you were born, you picked up on that frequency. That's why one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to use this because it really explains it well, I think, again, by the great Albert Einstein, is energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Meaning, right, the strategy is we're trying to create. And actually what we're doing is we're mimicking. We're learning someone else's strategy, right? And we're projecting that forward. When you learn your own energetic blueprint, that's probably a better word for it, you come across in your own energy, you're not concerned, right? You can learn the strategy. Trust me, I love AI. But with the rise of AI, we don't even know what's real sometimes. Like, I'm going to be honest and give you kind of a funny, but not funny story. So I'm getting divorced, kind of fresh on the dating apps. I kid you not. I was talking to someone yesterday. I don't know if they're real, they're a bot, whatever. They were chat GPTing me. And I know that. Like, at first, it was like, oh, this sounds really nice. And then I reread it and I was like, whoa, like, this is not even a real person, right? And now they have faux podcasts, right? There's AI podcasts. So how are we, and that's why the title, right, is called In the Golden Age of Podcasting. What is the golden age? It's where this reigns supreme, right? Where you don't have to worry, Marc, about talking about energy in a room, because that's going to be the MO. That's going to be what people are talking about over the old world, right? Which is all about strategy and really everyone mimicking everyone else's thing, right? Here's my 5-step formula, right? No offense to that, but that 5-step formula may not work for me if it's not aligned with my energetic frequency, right? And then if I'm using your strategy, Marc, per se, right, then I'm speaking in the frequency of you and not me. And I think maybe not initially, but I can pick up on that, right? Us highly sensitives, we can pick up on that. And the golden age is sort of a calling, right, of this new movement for people to understand that it's not one or the other. It's actually both. And that's why I say I use the science, which is that old world, right? That people want tangible proof that this works. But really, what is science, right? Like, for instance, Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein and all these creators, right? Edison, nobody knew about what they created before they created it.
Right.
Correct? Nobody knew. And that's what always blows my mind is like people say, oh, well, that doesn't work until it's proven. But there has to be someone, right, that's speaking something that no one else is speaking about. Because that's where creation is really born. Not from copying someone else's formula, not from using, right, all the AI tools. Like, and trust me, I'm a fan, but I program my AI to be the energetic frequency of me. I reread. If it doesn't sound or feel like me, I don't put it forward.
Yeah.
Right. And I use it more for graphics anyway, because I'm a writer and I feel like that's just robbing myself of my own potentiality.
Yeah. It's funny because we hear like some of the things that you're saying right now, talking about energy and frequency. But when and I can see that if some people hear that and they say, oh, they're getting too woo. But if you really listen to the things that Jessica's saying right now, this is all stuff that like we talk about on the morning show. I've heard Jason and Rich talk about in different conversations. Like these are, you can call it energy if you want, but however you call it, really pay attention to the details of what Jessica's talking about here, because there's a ton of valuable stuff that you can walk away with for sure. And I will hand the baton back over to Rich or Jason and let you guys chime in here.
Yeah, I had a follow-up. Actually, it's not a follow-up question. I want to bring the conversation back up a little bit, and then we'll see what Jason's brewing over there. Jessica, I'm just curious, because maybe some of our listeners or viewers are wondering right now, you had mentioned before that you came from a corporate world, right? And you also said you were in finance, which, like, sometimes people in the finance world are very data driven.
Yeah.
Right. Little firm, not as warm and fuzzy and stuff like that. Not saying everybody, but just saying.
Right.
That
Not
being said-
you, Ralph. Not you, because I know Ralph is listening right now.
What I'm getting to is, like, did you find your new path after that experience, or was this something you were always interested in and maybe always learning about it and then finally decided to, spread those wings? Like, tell us a little bit about how you found this.
Yeah.
path.
That's actually a really, really great question. Because I think if you had asked me this when I first started my business, I would have given you the logical, linear answer is that my last corporate job was sort of that catalyst of like, I felt like I died and I didn't want to die anymore, And that's why I created the Alive podcast. Like, I literally sat at my desk every single day, had massive panic attacks, felt so out of my own body, used to cry in the car on the way. Podcasting was my saving grace. And that's why I've spoke a lot in talks where I do say podcasting saved my life, because it really did. Like, I literally was like, if this is life, and not to be morbid, that's why I work in mental health, I don't want to be here. If a 9 to 5, or I worked in the public accounting world as well in busy season, 9 to 2 a.m. Like, I've worked in all those realms. I was like, if this is what life is, where I'm just going to work and sell my soul to make a paycheck, I'm not about that, right? That's what I would have told you 11 years ago. However, in doing a lot of the soul work and a lot of what I do with my clients, right, and every day in not only trauma recovery, but recovery from chronic stress and burnout, which I think we all are experiencing as a collective now, especially since 2020 and the rise of AI and technology. We are extremely distracted. We don't even know if our voice is our own or who we truly are. And I don't even mean AI copying our voice. I mean, when we actually speak, where does that come from? Does that come from our childlike self? Does that come from a parent? Does that come from a kid at school? Right, that gave us that specific narrative, right? And that's a lot of inner child therapy. But where did this come from? And again, out of kind of studying my own journey now, I've realized that I was always this way. Like, for instance, as a kid, I was very creative. And a lot of this was born out of feeling so different that I couldn't really connect with kids in school, that when I was alone, I was so creative that I would create like my own dance school, and I would like create these stories. Like, I had, and I'm talking like a really little girl, I had this dollhouse with these little miniature figures, and it would almost look like a real house that my parents had custom made for me. And I would create these lavish stories of this family that lived in the home, right? And really just connect to that. Like, I've always been a storyteller, and I always sensed and felt things from another realm. I always talked to God, right? Even as a child, I used to talk to God. Like, where did that come from? As a kid, we don't know. But now when I look back at a lot of those habits and patterns, I felt emotionally neglected. I didn't feel seen, heard, or understood, right? So we fantasize, we sort of create our own reality, which in the modern day we'd call like visualization or manifestation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's sort of where it was born. So I think I was born into that, again, from my own trauma, right? From, again, and no shame to my parents. My parents came from survival mode. They were post-World War II children. They didn't know their primary goal. My mom even tells me to this day, like, I didn't have time to self-actualize. I didn't have time to figure out who my true self was, right? Or to live my greatest passion. Like, she got married at a young age and was like, you're a mother, you provide. That was her sole goal, survival mode. And so many of us still live in that survival mode. And my goal is to help people not only break the cycle of their own lineage and childhood or whatever trauma, but to be able to transmute the you that was meant to be in the world before, right, everybody else told you who you were. And I could go on, but I'll stop.
Yeah. And that's why you will be speaking at EPC3 to share, and you'll have more opportunity to go on there and get really deep into this for sure.
Yeah. I won't go deep into like divination and all of that stuff, but into all the spiritual rabbit holes that I've gone down. But I feel like I've always had this power. I just didn't know it.
Yeah. That's fair. Jason, Rich, you want to chime in?
Jason, why don't you've been pretty quiet. Why don't you hop in here and get on?
Hard to get a word in with you guys. I've just been sitting back and taking it all in. I apologize because I do need to go backwards for a minute. I got off those dating apps like 10 years ago, and boy, what you're saying is even more proof that was the right move.
Yeah.
We could talk about this off the mic. What is the benefit of trying to use ChatGPT on a dating app? But that's neither here nor there. The question I really want to ask is more of a crossover between strategy and energy and mindset. And that's how I've usually defined it when I talk to podcasters about the energy, as you're putting it, Jessica. I think of it from this level of having the right mindset and bringing it into play. I feel that it is really step one in an overall strategy. So and that's where I think there's parallels and maybe even some unparallels in what we do, you and I separately. But in your teachings and working in podcasting, all the things you've done, have you seen some crossover between that mindset and energy side to how it helps an actual strategy unfold and get executed?
Yeah, 100%. The energy, again, to me, the energy is where like it all begins. It's the root. Energy drives mindset. Energy drives strategy, right? Because even when you're working on something tangibly, you're putting an energy into it. Like even right now on this live, we're all putting forth our specific energies. We're all creating a collective energy, right? Every single thing that we touch, colors, sounds, like even right now, you can't see on the other side of my computer, but I've got lots of energies going right here because my hope is that it's going to be broadcast through my voice, again, through my frequency, into everyone that touches the show today, right? Or watches the replay, right? I'll just show you. It's a 528 frequency, which is tuned to the universal heartbeat. So that transmutes the energy of
what's that
compassion.
exactly? Like you're showing me, but like, what is that?
Yeah, I'll bring this to EPC as well. It's called a frequency transmitter. So this is attuned, right? The easiest way to explain it, music is frequency, right? Why is music so therapeutic? It's attuned to different frequencies, right? You think of black keys versus the white keys, right? Black is sort of deep, darker tones. They evoke certain emotions. The white keys, lighter, more angelic tones. But then there's specific frequencies. So this is 528, which is the love frequency. I also have one by my bed for grounding. That's more my barefoot golfer realm. That's the new brand that I'm launching. For grounding therapy, I also have a grounding mat that goes under my sheets, and that's attuned to 432, which is and this is all science. You can research it, ChatGPT it, the Schumann resonance. And it's basically, so this is universal heartbeat, and it's transmitting this frequency within a certain radius of this room. So I actually travel, I keep it in my kitchen. I charge my liquids on it. So my tea this morning was actually charging on this plate. So the goal is when I drink this tea, I'm infusing that energy into my body, right? Into my gut, right? Into my psyche, into my, like all of that, right? And so mindset, to answer your question, Jason, is very much a part of it, right? Think of athletes like golf. That's why I got into the barefoot golfer. It's a very complex sport, but what makes the difference between number one golfer in the world, right? A Scotty Scheffler and, right, maybe bottom of the tour or, right, a handicap golfer, let's call it, is mindset.
Me.
Yeah. What's between your two ears, right? What are you saying? Not only what are you saying to yourself, right? The mindset, but also the energy. The thoughts are energy. Mindset is energy. The way you feel is energy, right? Every single thing that we touch, just look around your room. Everything you'll touch, hear, feel, see, experience, right? The five senses. And then there's the, right, super conscious, which is the stuff we can't see, hear, understand, right? Like God, but it's all energy.
We have a question from our title sponsor, Ralph Estep of the Content Creators Accountant. He just texted me.
I thought you said, okay. I was going to say.
He just texted me.
He texted you, okay.
Yes,
right.
And he's asking about, which I knew the answer to, but I figured if he's asking, maybe somebody else is asking as well. He's curious about your 333 necklace.
Oh, well, thank you, because that is energy as well. So I'll give the short answer, not the long answer. So 333 is an angel number, but specifically it's personal to me. How much of my story do I want to tell? Okay, so 3 is my number. It's my mother's birthday, so she was born on 3/3. My father had 2 brothers that passed away when I was 3 years old, also on 3/3. So put simply, it reminds me of the energy of like death and rebirth, right? It's carrying, right, the passage of my lineage, but also the energy of the present moment. Like my mother birthed me, and then that was sort of a death in my family that created a lot of the trauma, my journey to helping other people transmute their trauma. There's a lot to it. But 333 is always my resonance and my frequency. And so whenever I see this number, and again, in the most random of ways, I won't go into crazy stories, but because I connect to this on a daily basis, it's not even just seeing like 1111 on the microwave, like people know about that. But I see 333 in the most random ways because I'm attuned to that frequency.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Sort of,
I mean, I knew all about angel
numerology,
numbers.
there's a science to it as well. Like, 222 is the master builder number, right? Because you have 1 + 1. 3 is typically like angelic support. 4 surrounds foundation, home, stuff like that. That's numerology. But
I'm always proud of my angel numbers in the sense that they're mine because I was born at 4:44 p.m. So I feel very attached to those series of numbers. Yeah.
Which is why you host a community.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense based on that definition. Yes, that's true. So I want to ask you, you've written about the difference between listening to the voice within and looking outside ourselves for proof that something will work. And honestly, I'm going to be very real for a second. Like, this is an area that I continue to work on for myself. I struggle a lot with comparison, right? So how does comparison with other creators affect the way a podcaster speaks, that creates, and connects with an audience?
I mean, it affects it in a myriad of ways. I struggle with it too. I'm going to be 100% real. Like, and that's why I do this work. Like, when I wake up in the morning, granted, I do touch my phone and I'm trying to get rid of this addiction to check, apps and emails and such. But you are letting in, from the minute you wake up, if you open your phone, you are letting in all of the other energies of every single other creator, email, anyone, any energy coming from your phone, brands, you're letting that all into your aura immediately, right? And so I do that, like I pick up my phone and then I spend an hour, let's say in meditation, tapping back into my own. Again, recently I've been listening to something, and we'll talk about this at EPC. They're called isochronic tones. And they basically, it's from the Greek word isochronic. Iso means equal and chronic is time. So it literally retrains your brain, and there's actually scientific studies on it, to make sure the left and the right brain hemispheres are in equilibrium.
Yeah. And, I've got to say, like, again, I want people, even if you aren't super woo, just to stop and pay attention this week. If you're somebody similar to what Jessica's describing, that when you wake up, you grab your phone first thing in the morning and you're looking at emails, you're scrolling through social media, whatever it is you're doing, think about how you feel, especially a few hours later.
Yeah.
Right? Just how you're feeling in general, not about what you looked at first thing in the morning, but just how are you feeling? And I would encourage you to try a day where you don't engage with your phone first thing in the morning. And if, for that matter, maybe you try to limit it as much as possible that day and pay attention to how you're feeling that day, because there is something to be said about that. I noticed that when I accidentally grab my phone and start scrolling through it and first thing in the morning, it sets a weird tone for me, that at least for that morning. And I have to end up meditating, exercising, etc., to try to get out of whatever ick I just picked up by scrolling on my phone.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I'm starting from the morning to really set an example of, like, that's FOMO right there, right? Once you start seeing all those people, you're in that kind of weird space, Mark, because you're seeing all these other people and then you're thinking, oh my God, I should be doing this, or why am I not doing that? Or I need to listen to this, or I should be, right? It really takes you out of your own energy. Put simply, it just takes you out of your own space, your aura, which projects only a few feet right from your physical body. and you're absorbing, and if you're a highly sensitive or an empath, even more so, everybody else's energy. When you're absorbing everybody else's energy, you're going to think from their place, which takes you out of your place, which, right, breeds FOMO. And then, of course, there's a science between dopamine, right? And that's all these apps are created for that purpose. And really our phone, that's why it's highly addictive. It's like a drug. It's almost actually, I feel like, even worse than a drug. That's why we pick up, I don't know about you, but I pick up my phone like every few minutes. It's a terrible addiction.
Yeah.
Constantly checking email, constantly checking apps, constantly, right? And there, I know there's trackers on here to see how many. I don't even want to look at that because I don't want the data of how many times I pick up my phone or how many hours I've been on a specific app because that feels really bad. But Marc, you said it, like, it just makes you feel a certain way when you're on it, especially first thing in the morning, because your brain is not yet fully awake. Your subconscious mind is more active than your conscious, which is why meditation is powerful first thing in the morning, and brain retraining and all the things I do. But I'm being honest by saying I do pick up my phone, and then I'm like, you know what? That didn't feel good. Now I'm going to do this. And then I compare the energy. Okay, what felt better? How I felt when I was comparing myself to everybody else on Instagram and social media. And oh my God, another speaker posted about EPC. I haven't posted, like I'm just giving a real life example.
Yeah.
And like, no, I don't want to post from that place. I don't create from that place, honestly. And I'll just give full transparency, speak about this at EPC as well. I haven't even done my podcast for a year, a full year. That's the longest. I started my show in 2020. So it's 6 years in the making. I stopped it a year ago with, I'm going through a major life transition. I call it my real soul death experience in spirituality. They'll call it a Kundalini awakening because I didn't want to create from that place. I don't want to put forth the energy onto my show that I don't feel truly is me in the moment.
Yeah, no, to agree with what you're both saying, I know. Now, I do grab my phone in the morning, but that's to check. I do the meditation on my Apple Watch.
Yep.
And when I start with my morning meditation, I'm starting from that place of calm, peace of mind. But those days that maybe I forgot, or maybe something happened and I start scrolling on social media, then that's when I feel that morning just going downhill very, very quickly.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Let's take a quick commercial break. Gonna wipe the slate clean real quick. Let's check in and find out what's new going on. What kind of updates do we have for Empowered Podcasting Conference? Less than 4 weeks away? Less than 4 weeks away.
Less than a month. Yeah.
Less than 4 weeks away. Marc, on your end, my friend, anything you're cooking, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to share, even just a morsel?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's crazy to think in 1 month from right now, all four of us are sitting physically in the same room together, which is pretty mind-blowing to think about this path that we've been on to get there. And then, what have I been working on? I've been talking with lots of different people who are interested in volunteering at the event. We are going to take on a few more. I think the last time we did this show, we were talking about limiting it to just 6 people. But the more that we think about all that's entailed with this weekend, we think having more is probably safer to do. So we have opened that up a little bit more. We have probably a couple of slots left. And if anybody's interested, just go to empoweredpodcasting.com, click on the Contact Us link, fill out the little quick form just to give us your info and tell us that you're interested in volunteering, and I'll reach out to you and we'll go from there.
That's right. Many hands make light work. And if you've got 2 good hands, even 1 good hand, maybe one's in a cast or something like that. But if you're willing to work, we'll give you a free ticket to EPC.
That gave Jason a little chuckle there.
I don't want to.
You have a claw, whatever. We want your help.
We'll take you.
We'll take it.
Kick chairs down the aisle. All right, Jason, what do you got going on? Anything on your end?
Nothing like that. Damn. I'll sing my usual tune. We're past the date of ticket price increase, so it's now at its final point. But there's still opportunities for you to save on your ticket and be at Empowered Podcasting 3. So go to empoweredpodcasting.com. Since I'm telling the story, we'll use my code, but you can use any of these codes with the first names of your hosts here. But when you buy your ticket, EPC Jason 20 will save you 20% on your ticket price. And I think to further drive home what you're going to experience, we have officially put the schedule for the weekend on the website as well. So when you go to empoweredpodcasting.com/schedule, you'll see the whole weekend laid out. So all the speakers, all the networking, all the things that are happening. I know we want to talk about the big book event. I'm going to let Rich do that because that's his domain. But I'll also remind everybody as well, when you get your ticket, you are automatically entered to win a brand new Shure MV7 Plus microphone. So buying your ticket gets you put into that drawing. We will raffle that off at the event, and you will go home with that microphone from the conference. So Rich, I think another big point, as I said, this Meet the Author event that you're putting together, it's something new to EPC, but I think it's going to be a great way to kick things off on Thursday, along with our Mixer Icebreaker event. So tell everybody what you've got in store for us.
Yeah, the Meet the Author meetup. It's something that I've always participated at PodFest. They do a Meet the Author, and it's just a really cool way to give some shine to the author community because many podcasters, maybe they are writers as well, just like Jessica is, just like some of us are here. Maybe they're looking for ways to repurpose their content. They've got a huge catalog of episodes, and what great way to repurpose that information, but put it in a book form. But the author meetup is always a fun time to just meet the author community. And we were toying with the idea. We knew we had a lot of authors, but getting some buy-in and getting people to participate and lug some books on the airplane or send them down ahead. But we got a bunch of people. So shouts to Jennifer Longworth, Junaid Ahmed, Brandon Berkmeyer, Shay Sparks, Rick and Clancy Denton, and I also believe Ralph Estep will be participating. Still waiting on a few more confirmations, but those are the people that we have so far, the podcasters/authors that we have so far that will be participating in the author meetup. Great opportunity to get a book signed.
What I love about it, Rich,
take a selfie.
Yeah, Rich, what I'm excited about is that we're doing it with this mixer that we're doing on Thursday. So, and this is, again, no shade on PodFest because we love PodFest. And I know the way they do it, it's usually a separate event in a separate room somewhere. This we're doing with everybody together, just getting in, having a drink, socializing. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited for the authors about that because it's basically a guarantee you're going to have people in front of you interested in what you're sharing with us. So yeah, if you've got a book, let us know if you're coming to EPC.
Yeah, please. We would love for you to participate. We'd also really encourage you to let us know ahead of time. That way we can reserve space. As Marc said, the author meetup will be happening pretty much adjacent to the actual mixer. Okay. But we want to make sure that there's table space so you can sign some books and meet people and things like that. So let us know ahead of time. And if you have to order books from your printer, then you better start ordering books so you can ship them on ahead. That's pretty much what I've got. One more thing real quick. I've been reaching out, just like Marc has been kind of leading the charge with finding some volunteers. I've been reaching out to nonprofit organizations in the Charlotte area. And I did make contact with one specific creator organizations, a nonprofit organization that welcomes students. It's kind of like, maybe like an after-school program, something along those lines. And we're going to be giving some complimentary tickets to those students. So if you're in the Charlotte area or neighboring area and you're involved in a creative nonprofit and you would like to bring your students, let us know because we might be able to find some tickets for you free of charge.
Yeah,
So,
I think we have two different groups that we're working with right now that have students. We're talking, teenage age students that are really interested in podcasting and wanting to learn more. So we figured this would be a wonderful way to give back to the Charlotte area community. So yeah, great stuff, Rich. Thank you for that. And anything else we need to cover before we get back to Jessica with one or two more questions.
No, I think that's pretty much it on my end.
Okay, so Jessica, let's briefly talk about your talk. And I don't, you've shared a lot and I don't want you to share too much. So let's take this from a broad view here. What will attendees experience during your EPC3 workshop? And what's a change that you hope that they'll bring to the next recording session when they're going back home and start recording their next podcast?
Yeah. So what to expect is, again, a lot of what I talked about today is exactly what you said. It sounds woo, energy. What does it feel like? What is it like? You're going to actually experience that. And that's why I'm blessed that you guys gave me the 45-minute workshop, because trying to explain this in 30 minutes is really, really complicated. You're actually going to experience a lot of the tangible tools that I use on a day-to-day basis and with my clients to shift your frequency, to shift your energy. Again, that is your broadcast as a podcaster, is your frequency. I don't have a frequency tuner to make sure you can, see exactly what frequency it is. I know musicians have that where you can actually see what the specific number and marker is. But we're going to use a lot of these tools in this workshop to be able to shift our frequency to come across, right? Not only as our authentic selves, but as ourselves that feel just truly connected. Right? Truly connected to our heart, right? In the trauma-informed world, it's called heart math. That's one technique we're going to use. Ways to actually regulate your nervous system as well before you speak on the podcast. A lot of people don't think about that. As I mentioned before, right? What's our tone? What's our cadence? Our presence, right? And sort of how we come across in our voice and our messaging. We're going to actually work on that so you can feel that in the moment to when you go home and press play and hit record. You may actually feel the shift of your energy, of your episodes. Like, for instance, my listeners in talks, live talks that I do as well as on my podcast, they can tell when something is off with me. You can sense that shift. And so that's what I want people to go home with, is to be able to, as they press record every day, to feel like they put forth their best effort, right? Because FOMO comes from not feeling like you're enough, that you have to do what someone else is doing. But when you truly feel assured in yourself, in your energy, and your emotional state, that's another thing I didn't talk about, which is prevalent as well as a podcaster, regulating your emotional state. Nothing in the outside world truly can taint what is already inside of you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jessica, last question for you before we start wrapping up. One of the things we pride ourselves in here at EPC is that our featured speakers are also attendees. So you have the opportunity, viewers, to not only hear one of our featured speakers, like Jessica, on stage, you see them on stage, and then in the very next presentation, be sitting right next to them to hear someone else's presentation. Our speakers hang out and learn with the rest of us. What is one thing you are looking forward to? Maybe it's a presentation, maybe it's an experience like the author meetup or something like that. What is something you're looking forward to at EPC?
3 things actually came to mind as I was listening
Rich,
to
Marc,
you.
and Jason?
I'm going to see if I can remember all of them. Number 1 is I really am, and again, this may sound counter to my presentation. I actually did a talk on this at PodFest this year. I love AI. And I love it because I actually think it can be a beautiful tool for understanding more of your own energetic frequency. And I know that sounds counter, but that's sort of my MO, is sort of disproving 2 things that are contrasting, right? I mean, contrast therapy is a big thing in wellness too, but it's like the mental contrast therapy of like, we don't think this is authentic, but here's how it can actually, right? That's sort of shadow work at its finest. It can actually be the most potent medicine, right? Is sort of AI. So I love learning all the tools because I think it actually deepens my work and what I do. The second thing is just your community, Marc, and really getting to experience it. I've only experienced it digitally. And I feel like, again, this is a lot of the work that I do. The people you attract is from your frequency. It's from your energy. And so I know when I'm going to go there, just from being around you, from being around the show, anyone who's been here in the chat, Simona, which I am very... I'm very excited for her presentation because I've heard her speak and she's very, very powerful. Again, I just picked up on her energy and I was like, I love this girl and I love what she's saying. So that drew me to listen more to actual content. That's what I'm saying. The content is king, of course, but the energy is what draws the people in. Just like all the people that sign up for EPC, right? I would beg to differ. They probably come because they love the community and what it's about, right? That's why at PodFest, they always say the magic happens in the hallways. It's true connection, right? It's not about the specific sessions and what we're going to learn. It's about how we feel. It's about who we're going to connect with, right? It's about just the true synergy that happens, right, when aligned souls come together. So that's the third thing that I'm looking forward to. And really just everything. Getting to see you guys, of course, in person as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very
cool. I love Charlotte too. So excited to travel to Charlotte.
Absolutely. So, Jessica, thank you for hanging out with us this afternoon. Folks, remember, go get your tickets at empoweredpodcasting.com. Remember to use my promo code so I get all the credit. EPC Rich 20. Save some money. But going back to some of the things we said before, if you're interested in being a volunteer, we'd love to have you. We still have some sponsorship opportunities available. So reach out to us, go to the website. There's a form to fill out. We will be in touch with you. If you're going to be there and you are an author, we'd love to have you at the author meetup. So reach out to us once again so we can reserve space for you. And something else that just reminded me the other day, make sure you're following us on social media. You may think that you're subscribed. You may think that, we're connected, but sometimes, you forgot to subscribe on this channel or that channel or follow on this channel or that channel. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram, LinkedIn, and we also have a Facebook group. So we've got a page, we've got a group. Make sure you're in all ways connected in all ways so that you stay up to date on the latest information and all that good stuff. Marc, Jason, any last words from you, gents?
No, just get your tickets now. It is time. We are in the final stretch. Get your tickets. Come join us. And like Jessica said, there's nothing like in person. I am so grateful for the digital community that we've built, but there's nothing like actually seeing people, hugging people, shaking hands, and learning from one another through an entire weekend. So I highly encourage you, please go to empoweredpodcasting.com, get your tickets today, and use code EPCMarc20 and get 20% off. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, we have a little bet going who's going to get the most out of their coupon codes. And I think Jason is still winning right now, just slightly.
You're damn right I am.
Yeah, so use mine, please, and help me win this little bet between my brothers here.
This isn't pandering whatsoever.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
I will wrap up by echoing Marc. Yes, get your tickets. We're in that home stretch. We want to see you there. We know everybody. As humans, we are creatures of last-minute habits. So we're getting to that last minute. So we encourage you to get your tickets now. Also, a big shout out to all of our sponsors that are helping make this event possible.
All right. Well,
Indeed.
I think that'll do it. Jessica, thank you again for joining us and really looking forward to seeing you in a month. I'm actually excited for you to meet my wife in a month as well, because you guys will end up talking for hours, I'm sure of it.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you for being here. And Rich, Jason, thank you as always. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys in the next 10 minutes or so anyway. So I won't say an official goodbye to you guys. And Rich, thanks for taking the helm.
Before we go, one last thing I want to shout out.
Oh.
Next week, we're back with the great Annika Jackson here on Podcasting.
Yeah, so we've had little teases here about AI stuff. We'll probably be digging in a lot to AI next week with Annika. She was a speaker last year and will be again this year and as a creator partner as well. So until next time, everybody, make it a great day. Take care.